She was still in her blazer when she walked through the door, heels clicking, hair too perfect for a late meeting. The scent of her perfume hit first. New, subtle, expensive. Not the kind she'd wear around me. I was plating the salmon I'd made for both of us, timing it down to the minute like some kind of idiot who still thought effort mattered. She glanced at the table, then at me, then at her phone. "Oh, you made dinner?" she said, eyebrows twitching up, like I'd surprised her with a dog adoption. "I thought it was Friday." "It was. Then the budget meeting ran over." She kissed me on the cheek, barely, like I was an uncle she barely tolerated. "I'm not that hungry anyway." I watched her retreat to the couch with her phone clutched in one hand, like it held state secrets. She curled up under the blanket I got her for our anniversary last year and started typing, smiling to herself. That was the fourth Friday in a row, and by then, I'd stopped believing in coincidences. I sat at the table and chewed alone, the silence louder than the clink of the fork on porcelain. Occasionally, I'd glance toward her. She never noticed. She was too busy giggling silently and erasing her screen faster than a teenage boy hiding browser history. And when her phone buzzed, again, I leaned just enough to see the contact name, James W., her boss, the same James she once described as harmlessly awkward. I didn't say anything, just gave a little nod like I always do. But I watched. That's the part no one tells you about betrayal. It doesn't happen with a scream. It happens with quiet decisions. Hers, mostly, followed by mine. I want to pause here for a second, especially if you're listening to this with that ache in your chest. If this story feels a little too familiar, like it's about your dinner table, your couch, your wife, I want you to hit that subscribe button, not because it helps me, but because it tells the team here that these stories matter, that they're real. And maybe, just maybe, you're not the only one going through it. Anyway, back to the evening, she stopped pretending. When I asked who she was texting, she laughed like I'd asked if she was joining a cult. "God, you're being so paranoid lately. It's just James. We're swamped at work." Swamped. At 11:43 p.m. on a Friday night, with emojis, she angled the phone away from me so aggressively it might as well have had missile codes on it. "I wasn't accusing you," I said calmly. "I just asked." "You never trust me anymore," she replied, voice rising, as if my silence was the real issue. "You always act like I'm hiding something." "You are hiding something. The phone screen, for starters." She stared at me. For half a second, I thought she'd break, confess, scream, cry. Instead, she smiled. That smug, dangerous smile. "I'm not doing this with you right now," she said, getting up. "It's been a long week." Then she disappeared into the bedroom and locked the door behind her. Not angrily, casually, like it was just another Tuesday. I sat there a long time after that, not crying, not angry, just stunned. That's when it started. Not the affair, I'm sure that had started long before, but the distance, the kind that's not measured in feet, but in the number of things you stop saying out loud, the things you pretend not to see, not because you're blind, but because you're bracing. I noticed she wore makeup on work from home days now, that she changed passwords on her laptop, that the shared calendar on our phones suddenly had gaps where her plans used to be. It wasn't the lies that got to me. It was how comfortable she became while telling them. Once, years ago, she used to hold my hand while we watched reruns, tracing lazy circles into my palm. Now, she clutched her phone tighter than she ever held me, and the way she smiled when she read certain messages, I hadn't seen that look aimed at me in over a year. I tried to tell myself I was imagining it, that I was overanalyzing, that this was just marriage after a decade, ebb and flow. But one night, I walked into the kitchen for water and caught her in the hallway, lights off, phone pressed to her ear, whispering, smiling, that smile again. She didn't see me, or maybe she did and didn't care anymore. Either way, I didn't interrupt. I just turned around and went back to bed. I stared at the ceiling, wide awake, while she giggled in the dark down the hall with a man who signed her paychecks. That's when the switch flipped. Not rage, not grief, just a cold, quiet kind of curiosity, the kind you feel when you already know the ending. You just haven't seen it play out yet. And if you think I was about to blow up our lives with a scream and a slammed door, you don't know me at all. I didn't plan revenge. I planned silence, observation, and eventually a reckoning. There's a specific shade of lipstick she starts wearing, darker, bolder. It shows up one Thursday morning out of nowhere, and when I say something half playful, half confused, she shrugs. "It's just for me," she says, checking herself in the hallway mirror. "Not everything's about you." Funny, that same day, she adds 3 new dresses to her closet. I only know because I was the one who assembled the garment rack she used to hang them. Tags still on. None of them are what I'd call meeting attire. Low backs, slits, one with that sheer fabric women only wear when they want to be looked at. Friday rolls around. Casual Friday, she calls it, but instead of jeans and flats, she walks out of the bedroom in heels, silk blouse, tight skirt. Her scent trails behind her, stronger than usual, not unpleasant, just intentional. "You presenting something today?" I ask, sipping my coffee. She doesn't even pause. "Nah, just felt like dressing up." Right, she's out the door before I can say anything else. Not that I would have. I've stopped saying things that invite lies. She used to tell me when she was going out. Now she just texts after she's already out. "Work dinner, don't wait up." Always followed by a red wine emoji, like that makes it charming instead of hollow. So I start observing. Nothing crazy, no snooping, no password breaking. I just watch. I begin cross-checking. Her words versus reality. Small things, like her calendar. She tells me she's heading to Denver for a team retreat, 5 days. She says, starting Thursday. But I look up the actual conference dates. Starts Saturday, ends Monday. So what's Thursday and Friday for? Prepping, she claims. In heels? At that point, I stop trusting her mouth and start trusting timestamps. She laughs at her phone more than anything I say. I catch her once, giggling like a schoolgirl, before slapping the phone face down on the table when I walk in. "James sent a meme," she says, overly casual. "Must have been hilarious," I reply. "It was, you wouldn't get it. It's work-related. Always work-related." Her whole life now is a blur of meetings and digital smirks. Like I'm the stranger renting a room in her house. It's not the phone, really. It's how she acts with it. That little panic flinch when I walk by. The way she pulls it under the pillow at night. One time, I woke up to her checking it at 3 a.m. She said she couldn't sleep and was reading articles. I leaned over, glanced at the screen. The browser was closed. Messenger was open. That's when I start writing things down, not because I'm paranoid, but because I need to remember. When the gaslighting starts, because it always does, I'll need the receipts. Thursday, home at 11:47 p.m. Makeup still perfect. Laughs at phone, doesn't answer when I ask what's funny. Friday, casual outfit worth $600. Says she's in Denver. Location tag shows airport restaurant in Austin. Saturday, 12:04 a.m. call. Leaves the bedroom, whispers for 18 minutes. Returns smelling like his cologne. Not mine. Yes, I know his scent. He shook my hand once at a work dinner. Arrogant guy, too polished, teeth too white, the kind of man who says champ unironically. I don't confront her, not yet. Instead, I pour myself another glass of scotch and keep watching. Every slip becomes another confirmation. Every overly defensive laugh, every "you're crazy," every "you're imagining things" is just another brick in the wall she's building between us. But there's one night that changes it from passive suspicion to active resolve. It's a Monday, around midnight. She thinks I'm asleep. I hear the buzz, low, under her pillow. Then a rustle. She slips out of bed like a teenager sneaking out. I follow, silent. She's in the hallway. Lights off. Phone pressed to her ear, whispering. I hear the laugh. Soft. Intimate. Then, "I miss you too." My spine turns to ice. She's barefoot, pacing, and completely unaware that I'm watching her from the corner of the staircase. "Next weekend will be perfect," she says, and my stomach drops. He has no idea. She turns, and for a second I think she sees me. But she just walks right past, back to bed. I stand there for a long time after, not shaking, not angry, just still. I go to my office and open my laptop. I scroll through a few names until I find what I'm looking for. A private investigator, but not the kind that follows people. The kind that monitors digital footprints, phone records, cloud backups. If she wants to live through her screen, then that's where I'll find the truth. No yelling, no slamming doors, No ultimatums, just facts. Because when the time comes, I don't want to ask her if she's lying. I want to hand her the proof and watch the expression drop off her face like a curtain cut loose. The first thing the investigator sends me is a spreadsheet, color-coded, time-stamped, brutally precise, the kind of file that doesn't scream or accuse, it just shows. In pale blue columns, I see every instance of a message from James W. to my wife between 10 p.m. and 2 a.m. over the last 30 days, 37 of them, most with attachments. Some with audio, one with a heart emoji and the word mine. I don't feel rage when I see it. That surprised me. No outburst, no how could she, just a kind of mental clicking sound, like a deadbolt sliding into place. It's one thing to suspect, it's another to see, can't wait for our little secret getaway, she'll never know, staring at you in black and white Arial font. The irony? He didn't even bother to delete his own messages, just hers. She was doing all the cleanup, on both ends, it turns out. The investigator pulled everything from his synced cloud backups. Apparently, her brilliant boss isn't as tech-savvy as he pretends to be in strategy meetings. There's also a voice memo, just 7 seconds. Her voice, breathy, laughing. Tell her I'm your assistant, or better, HR. That always works. I play it once, then again, then I close the file. I don't need to hear it a third time. Because it's not about feeling anymore. It's about documenting and deciding. That night, I don't go home right away. I sit in the car in the grocery store parking lot, staring at the people around me. Couples coming out with bags, kids clinging to carts, a man laughing with his wife while pushing a squeaky-wheeled stroller. None of them know what it's like to realize your wife rehearsed lies in another man's voice memo. She texts me at 8:32 p.m. Don't wait up, grabbing dinner with the team after that DEI seminar. It's brutal. Yeah, brutal. I reply with a thumbs up. Inside the car, I open the shared calendar again and count the days till her next business trip. According to her, she'll be in San Diego for a workshop on leadership dynamics. 3 nights, hotel already booked. She sent me the receipt to prove it, but I already know she'll be nowhere near San Diego. The investigator found a different itinerary on her boss's travel card, a rental in Santa Barbara, 1 king bed. He also forwarded me a photo from a restaurant reservation system. It's blurry, but there's no mistaking her hand on James's arm as they sit at a corner table, laughing. Her hand, the same hand that used to trace circles on my chest when she couldn't sleep. I forward the picture to a private email account I set up 2 days ago, an archive, for when this becomes less about what happened and more about what must happen next. I don't talk to her that night, or the next, but I start noticing more, how she deletes her call logs religiously every morning, how she turns off read receipts and uses nicknames for contacts. James W. becomes JW, HR consultant. Clever. Almost. Then on a random Tuesday, I get an alert from the investigator. A message pulled from James's outbox after a forced sync. Booked the cabin. Should be just us. Bring that red thing you wore last month. I don't need to ask what red thing. She bought it during a girls' trip. The tag was still on when I saw it tucked behind a stack of sweatshirts. I thought it was for me. The thing about this kind of betrayal is, it's never just one lie. It's dozens, stacked, little ones, harmless on their own, but together they rot the foundation. And now I can feel every beam in our life creaking. But here's the thing. I don't confront her. Not yet, because I remember something my grandfather told me once when I was a teenager, watching him fix a broken fence. He said, if you pull a post too early, the whole thing crashes. But if you loosen the ground around it first, you can slide it out without anyone noticing. I'm loosening the ground, and I'm not doing it alone. Because buried in the investigator's report is one name that keeps popping up. Alicia W. She's the one who pays for the shared family plan on James's phone account. The one who books vacations to Hawaii every year and tags him in throwback posts like a woman who thinks she's married to a man with a spine. I call her, not to accuse, just to confirm. It takes her 3 minutes to go from defensive to devastated. Because when I read her the last message I received, can't wait for our little secret getaway, she goes quiet. Do you have proof? She whispers. I have more than proof, I say. I have patterns. Now there's a pause, then, can we meet? And just like that, the wall that my wife thought protected her becomes a doorway. One I intend to walk through, carefully, deliberately, and with company. I didn't know what to expect when I called her. I had her name, Alicia, from the phone records and cloud backups. Her number was tied to the billing contact on James's family plan, the same number listed on their kids' emergency contact forms, the same woman who sent him a digital birthday card just 3 weeks earlier with the caption, "To the man who still makes me laugh harder than anyone else." I dialed. The call connected on the second ring. "Hello?" Her voice was sharp, controlled, too polite, like someone answering a call from a distant cousin or a telemarketer. I took a breath. "I'm calling about James," I said. Silence. "Then who is this?" I gave her my name, told her I was married to one of James's direct reports, that I wasn't calling to cause drama, that I just needed her to see something I had copies of. She cut me off. "You're one of her friends? What the hell is this? Some threat? You people are disgusting." Her voice cracked. Anger, but also something deeper. Betrayal already half suspected. "No threats. I'm not part of anything. I'm just a husband," I said. Another silence, longer this time. "I don't believe you," she finally said. "You're probably just trying to cover for her. What's your angle?" "No angle, just check your shared cloud." Under the folder labeled James Doc's Archive. He never unlinked it from his old iPad. "You'll find the same things I did." Then I hung up. I didn't wait, I didn't chase, but I left the door open. 30 minutes later, she called back. Her voice was different this time, lower, slower. Like the scaffolding she'd been leaning on had cracked. "Can we meet?" We chose a neutral spot, an old cafe halfway between our neighborhoods. She arrived in gym clothes, no makeup, like she'd walked out the door without thinking. She scanned the place first, clearly expecting something else. A setup, a confrontation. Instead, I stood and pulled out the chair across from mine. She sat down and didn't say anything for a full minute. Then, "He told me she was mentally unstable, that she might come on to him, that if anything weird happened at work, it was just her being obsessed." I exhaled. "He told my wife he was miserable, that you were cold, controlling, that you never let him breathe." Her lip curled. "Of course he did." I opened my folder. Just one. Hard copies, printed that morning. Screenshots, timestamps, restaurant reservations, calendar overlaps. One photo, blurry but unmistakable, of their hands touching across a table. No mistaking the intimacy. No mistaking the betrayal. Alicia stared at the papers for a long time. Her fingers didn't tremble. She just kept reading. "I thought it was work stress," she murmured. "But the hotel charge in Santa Barbara, he said it was a client dinner." "Same weekend she said she was in San Diego for a retreat," I replied. She looked up at me, and something changed behind her eyes. Not grief, not rage, calculation. "This isn't about screaming, is it?" she asked. "No. You want to hurt them." "Not physically," I said quietly, "just enough to watch their house of lies collapse in public, brick by brick, without us raising our voices." She nodded, the weight of 100 suspicions landing on one table. "I've been in this position before," she said. "Years ago. Different woman. James swore it was emotional only. Swore it ended. I stayed. For the kids. For the image. And now she was looking at proof that her marriage had been nothing but a recycled lie." I sipped my coffee. "I'm not here for revenge," I told her. "But I do believe in symmetry." She gave a dry laugh. No humor. Just agreement. We didn't talk about lawyers or confrontation. We didn't swap sob stories. That wasn't the point. Instead, we made a plan, because she was going to receive an invitation soon, an invite to a casual team dinner that my wife organized at her favorite bistro downtown. One she thought I knew nothing about. One that was meant to look professional, harmless, routine. It wasn't. That's when Alicia leaned in and said, "I'll come, but only if I'm your plus one." I raised an eyebrow. "You sure you're ready for that kind of spectacle?" "I've spent years being polite," she said. "Let's try something new." We left the cafe without another word. Two strangers, bound by betrayal, not in grief, but in purpose. And as I watched her walk to her car, shoulders squared, keys tight in her grip, I realized something. This wasn't a story about heartbreak anymore. It was about control. and we were about to take it back. The idea didn't come to me all at once. It unfolded in fragments, like a chess move I'd seen a dozen times but never had the nerve to try. I wasn't interested in petty revenge. I wasn't going to blow up anyone's car, post screenshots online, or give her some dramatic ultimatum at 3 a.m. while she pretended to be asleep. I wanted something quieter, something cleaner. I wanted her to feel it in her bones. And so on a Wednesday morning, over a burner email thread with Alicia, I sent her the idea. It's not confrontation, I wrote. It's exposure. We met again that afternoon in the back booth of a sushi place neither of us had ever been to, neutral territory. She came prepared, heels, blazer, that same calm fury in her eyes. I laid out the plan. My wife had arranged a group dinner at her favorite upscale bistro next Friday. She'd invited a handful of close colleagues from her team, not me, of course. I found out about it only because she left her laptop open one night while FaceTiming James. The calendar was there. Bistro La Verite, Friday, 7 p.m. Let me guess, Alicia said. She said she's working late that night. Quarterly debrief, I nodded, apparently very urgent. I took out my phone and slid it across the table. Alicia scrolled through the text chain I'd compiled. Select screenshots, just enough to prove intimacy. Nothing violent, nothing grotesque, nothing that could be explained away. At the bottom of the folder was one sticky note, just 7 words. She wanted to meet the other woman. She looked up. You want me to say this? No, I said. That's my line. Her expression didn't change. Then she whispered, almost too softly to hear, let's make it one to remember. We picked the seats carefully. I'd walk in with her, arm in arm, calm, composed. My wife would already be seated, surrounded by her people. She always got there early to manage impressions. She'd be mid-laugh, mid-sip of her overpriced wine, smug in the illusion that no one saw through her curated chaos. Until we walked in, until she saw the one person she never expected to meet, without her filters on, the woman who shared her secret without ever saying a word. It has to be quiet, I said. No shouting, no scene, just clarity. Alicia nodded. Dignity can be a weapon. They forgot that. We even rehearsed it, where we'd stand, when we'd pause, how long I'd wait before delivering the line. That line, I practiced it in my head for 3 nights straight. This is your boss's wife. She wanted to meet the woman her husband texts at midnight. There was something surgical about it. A clean incision, no blood, just exposure. Alicia asked if I was sure I wanted to go through with it, that once it was done, there'd be no talking it out, no apologies, no backtracking. It would end whatever version of reality my wife thought she was curating. I told her that version already ended. I just haven't informed her yet. The day before the dinner, I brought my wife coffee in bed. She blinked in surprise. I hadn't done that in months. She asked if everything was okay. Why wouldn't it be? I smiled. That night, she wore her new red blouse to bed, the one James mentioned in his texts. She asked if I noticed it. I said I did. Look good? She asked, twirling. You'll turn heads, I replied. She smiled, satisfied, pleased with herself. She had no idea that in 24 hours, her entire performance would implode in one sentence. Not because I exposed her, but because she did it to herself. The next morning, she left early, said she had a prep session with her team. I kissed her cheek and watched her walk out the door. Then I texted Alicia. 7 p.m. tomorrow. Bistro La Verite, wear whatever makes you feel powerful. She replied with a thumbs up emoji. That night, I slept better than I had in months. Not because it was over, but because it was almost over. The calm before the storm isn't peaceful. It's precise, focused. And when it breaks, it doesn't make a sound. It just shatters. Bistro La Verite is one of those places that exists for Instagram stories and mid-level executives who want to pretend they discovered something edgy, all reclaimed wood and dim lighting, overpriced cocktails with names like The Art of Silence and Fig Whisper. My wife loved it. She once said it made her feel seen, which was funny considering how much she'd worked to not be seen at all. Alicia and I arrived 5 minutes past 7, by design. From outside through the massive front window, I saw my wife already holding court, laughing a little too loudly, twirling a glass of rosé between her fingers. She wore that same red blouse, the one James liked, the one she swore she bought for herself. Her phone was face down on the table, but close, always within reach, like a talisman, or a detonator. She was surrounded by 3 coworkers, all equally curated. One of them was the junior analyst she always complained about, so of course now they were best friends. Across from her sat Derek from Ops, the one who once called me Mr. Husband at the holiday mixer. They were all deep into some story, my wife's shoulders shaking with laughter, eyes bright with that look of practiced effortlessness. God, she was good at this. Alicia looked at me as I opened the door for her. "You sure?" she asked. I nodded once. "Time to return the favor." The maitre d' barely glanced at us as we walked in, probably assuming we were just another too-polished couple on a date night. But as we approached the table, I felt the air shift. One of the women stopped mid-sentence. Her eyes darted to me, then to Alicia, then back again, like she was trying to process an optical illusion. Derek's smile faltered. My wife hadn't seen us yet. She was still laughing. Until she wasn't. Her head turned casually at first, then locked. Her eyes landed on me, and then on Alicia, and something in her face. Something practiced, composed, invincible, just short-circuited. She shot to her feet, so fast her chair skidded back, nearly toppling over. "What the hell is this?" she snapped. Not loud, not yet, but the tone turned heads. I stopped, steady, didn't look around, didn't flinch. I just smiled. "This is your boss's wife," I said evenly, my voice cutting through the buzz of the restaurant like a piano note in an empty room. She wanted to meet the woman her husband texts at midnight. The table went silent. Not awkward silent, surgical silent. Derek coughed. One of the women gasped. The junior analyst suddenly found her menu very interesting. My wife stood there, blinking, red creeping up her neck. "What do you even— this is insane." Alicia stepped forward, calm, regal almost. She was wearing black, minimal jewelry, like a mourner at the funeral of a lie. "We've never officially met," she said gently, "but I've read your messages. Lovely prose, really evocative." My wife's mouth opened, closed, then opened again. She looked at me, then at Alicia. Then at the envelope Alicia was holding. "What's in that?" she asked, voice trembling now. "Oh, just a few screen grabs, timestamps, dinner receipts, a reservation for 2 at that little cabin in Santa Barbara you both like so much." "You went through his phone?" Alicia didn't blink. "You should have gone through your conscience." One of the coworkers quietly pushed her chair back and mumbled, I think I left my stove on." She scurried off without waiting for a reply. I turned to my wife again. Her lips were quivering, eyes darting between faces like she was looking for an escape hatch, but the room was too open, too quiet. I leaned in just slightly and said, "You always said I never paid attention, but I learned that trick from you." Her face contorted, anger, shame, confusion, all fighting for dominance. "You ambushed me in public? With her? You're out of your mind." "No," I said softly. "I just finally stepped into reality, the one you've been trying to edit around me." Alicia placed the envelope on the table with the kind of delicate precision you usually reserve for porcelain. Then she turned to leave. I followed. Behind us we heard a voice, my wife's, crack into the space between tables. "This isn't what it looks like." No one answered. Not her coworkers, not the waitress frozen halfway to the kitchen, not Derek, who suddenly found the wine list fascinating. We stepped out into the cool night air. Alicia exhaled slowly, not triumphant, just finished. "You didn't yell," she said. "Neither did you. Think she'll follow you?" I looked back through the window. My wife was still standing there, hands clutched at her sides, surrounded by the ruins of her reputation. "I hope not," I said, "because the next thing coming isn't a scene. It's silence." We walked toward the parking lot. 2 ghosts, maybe, or maybe just 2 people finally visible again, because we stopped living inside someone else's fiction. The envelope sat on the table like a ticking device wrapped in elegant stillness. Alicia didn't say a word after placing it down, just smoothed the edge with one manicured finger and took a single step back. No dramatics, no accusations. She didn't need them. My wife stared at the envelope like it had teeth. Then she grabbed it. She yanked it open with one sharp flick, her fingers trembling more than she probably realized. The paper inside made that soft, crinkling sound as she unfolded it, a sound so familiar, so harmless, yet somehow heavier than anything I'd heard in years. She scanned the first page, her face changed, color drained, eyes widened, her lips parted, then pressed together. The performance she'd rehearsed, whatever version of innocence or outrage she'd had preloaded, died instantly. All that was left was panic, poorly disguised as indignation. "What is this?" she hissed, but her voice broke halfway through the sentence. I didn't answer, neither did Alicia. We just stood still as she turned the page, and then the next. Each sheet was worse than the last. Messages with timestamps that didn't match her supposed whereabouts. GPS pins, a calendar entry from James titled Escape Room, restaurant reservations she never told me about. And the last page, blunt, brutal, was a screen cap of a voice memo from her to James. "Tell her I'm your assistant," or better, HR, that always works. It was dated 3 days before her birthday. Across the table, her junior analyst, Madison, I think, leaned forward slightly to glance at the paper. Then she recoiled like she'd touched something hot. "Oh my God," Madison muttered. She stood up, grabbed her purse, and walked out without saying another word. That was the first fracture. The second came when Derek sat back, arms folded, and mumbled, "Jesus, I thought you were kidding when you said James was mentoring you." My wife looked up, wounded. "It's not like that." Alicia cut her off, her voice quiet, almost bored. "He lied to me. You lied to him. You both thought the lies made you clever. I didn't know you were spying." "I wasn't," Alicia said, her tone slicing. "Until he made the mistake of syncing his phone with our old tablet, the one our kids used to play Minecraft. That's where I saw your nudes." That last word, nudes, landed like a thunderclap in the room, not shouted, whispered, but amplified by the sheer horror on my wife's face. The table went dead quiet. My wife looked around, eyes darting, searching for sympathy. None came. Even the waiter, halfway to delivering a plate of burrata to the table behind us, slowed down and quietly turned around. She looked back down at the papers in her hand, flipping the final page over and over again as if there might be some clause, some legal loophole that would make it all go away. There wasn't. "Look," she said shakily, "it wasn't serious. It was just, it wasn't physical, okay? We were just talking, just planning secret getaways," I finished for her, my voice low, "exchanging gifts, swapping photos, telling him I was emotionally abusive so you could justify sneaking around." She turned toward me then, her expression teetering between fury and collapse. "You read his texts. You don't know what I was going through." "No," I replied. "But now your coworkers do." Her eyes flicked to the others still seated. Only two remained. One was staring into her wine glass like it held a portal to another dimension. The other was already pulling her phone out of her clutch and typing rapidly, probably messaging someone, or documenting the entire scene. "None of this was supposed to come out like this," my wife muttered. "We were going to end things. He promised me we'd stop. He said it was too risky." Alicia's eyebrows lifted slightly. "And yet you kept texting, kept meeting. I didn't mean to hurt anyone." "Oh," Alicia said coolly, "you just didn't care if anyone got hurt." Then she turned to me. "Are we done here?" I nodded once, and that was it. We walked out as my wife stood frozen, her hands full of papers and her face stripped of the mask she'd worn so expertly. She didn't cry, she didn't shout, she just stood there, breathing hard, watching the pieces fall and realizing maybe for the first time that the damage wasn't something she could smooth over with charm. It was done, and it was public. No louder sound exists than humiliation in a quiet room. She came stumbling out of the bistro 30 seconds after we left, half jogging in those heels she could never quite walk in. Her hair was out of place now, just slightly. One strand stuck to her lip gloss as she tried to catch her breath, as if oxygen itself had betrayed her. "You ambushed me," she snapped, her voice too loud for the sidewalk. "That was cruel, you know that." I didn't stop walking, didn't speed up either, just steady steps toward the parking lot, as if she were someone else's problem now. She caught up, breathless, eyes wide. "You humiliated me in front of my coworkers, my team. You planned this like some kind of attack. Who are you?" I finally stopped, turned halfway toward her. Alicia stood just behind me, quiet, arms folded. You want to talk about cruelty? I said. Let's start with the 2 years of midnight whispers, the vacations I paid for while you were texting him under the covers, the way you'd giggle at your phone like a teenager while I sat 5 feet away, pretending not to notice. Let's talk about that cruelty. She blinked, tried to respond, didn't. Instead, she dropped her tone, traded the fury for something shakier. Please, let's talk. Just us. Not like this, privately. She reached out for my arm, almost like she forgot who she was dealing with. That's when Alicia stepped forward. Her voice was calm, no edge, no volume, just lethal clarity. You should have thought about privacy, she said, before texting my husband at 1 in the morning about your red lingerie. My wife flinched like she'd been slapped. You don't have to keep rubbing it in, she snapped, now turning on Alicia. You don't know what your husband told me. You have no idea what I've been through. Alicia tilted her head slightly. You mean besides your dead marriage, your lies, your fake girls' weekends, and the cabin reservations under your work email? I made mistakes, okay? No, I said, you made a second life. A group of younger women passed on the sidewalk behind us, slowing just a bit when they caught pieces of the exchange. One of them looked back. That's when my wife realized we weren't in a bubble anymore. This wasn't just marital fallout, it was public decay, witnessed, unretractable. She lowered her voice. I was going to come clean. When? I asked. Before or after the next trip? She opened her mouth, closed it, looked at Alicia, then at me. She tried again. I didn't think it would get this far. No, Alicia said, stepping closer. You didn't think you'd get caught? That's different. My wife's lip trembled. Her eyes, always so calculating, now darted like a trapped animal's. Look, maybe we could just, You used me, I said, cutting her off, to prop up your narrative, to make him feel powerful, to make yourself feel wanted. I was your cover story, the boring husband who wouldn't ask questions, the one who made dinner and left you alone on the couch with your goddamn secrets. I wasn't trying to hurt you. You just didn't care if you did. She tried to speak, but her voice caught, like her throat had given up defending her. Let's just go home and talk. Please, we can figure this out. We can go to therapy. I'll delete everything. I'll block him. I laughed, just once. Quiet, bitter. Block him? That's your big gesture now? After hundreds of texts, secret weekends, and who knows what else, you want to hit block and pretend this was just a misunderstanding? Her silence was an answer. Behind us, Alicia's ride pulled up. She turned to me. You good? Yeah, I said. Thanks. Alicia looked at my wife one last time, not with fury, not even pity, just the same expression you give to someone who doesn't realize they've already lost. She got in the car and drove off. My wife looked at me with something new in her face, not guilt, not anger, fear, not of violence, not of scandal, of irrelevance. She realized I wasn't yelling, wasn't threatening, wasn't reacting at all, and that scared her. Please, she whispered, just come home with me. No. Can we talk later? No. Are you really just going to walk away? I met her eyes. I started walking a long time ago. You just didn't notice until someone else arrived with me. And then I left her there, on the sidewalk, in front of her favorite restaurant, wearing that red blouse, holding a folder full of her own destruction. The next morning, the performance began. I woke up early, as usual. She didn't. No apology note, no explanation, no attempt to sneak into bed during the night and pretend she'd been there the whole time. Just silence. Her door was closed. My room was mine again. I made coffee and stared out the window while the drip echoed through the quiet house like a metronome counting down the last seconds of whatever this used to be. By the time she came downstairs, it was after 9. She wore slacks, a modest blouse, no makeup, a deliberate image, the somber professional, not the woman in the red top who had scrambled across cobblestone pavement chasing 2 people who no longer cared to hear her excuses. She didn't speak to me. Not good morning, not I'm sorry. Just poured herself a cup of coffee and stood at the sink, staring into the mug like she was waiting for a magic solution to rise out of it. Her phone buzzed twice. She checked it, then froze. I watched her mouth the words she read, eyes darting back and forth. HR is requesting a statement, she finally muttered. Statement for what? Someone filed a complaint. I raised an eyebrow. James? She didn't respond. Another buzz. She flinched this time. He's working from home, effective immediately, she said, pending internal investigation. Still, I said nothing. That evening she cooked. She never cooked unless she needed something. Grilled salmon, asparagus, glass of red wine. She lit a candle. Tried to replicate a memory. Some stale version of a life she'd already thrown away. She placed the plate in front of my seat, then waited. I didn't sit. You're not going to eat? No. I made your favorite. You made a cover story. She exhaled. Okay, I deserve that. She paused, looked up. But I'm trying. Doesn't that count for anything? I studied her for a moment. The truth isn't something you get to decorate. Her face cracked, just for a second. Then she swallowed hard and tried again. It was never physical. There it was, the desperate Hail Mary. I swear, we flirted, we talked, we fantasized, but I didn't cross that line. I leaned back against the counter and tilted my head. You think that's the part that broke us? She blinked. What do you mean? You think intimacy is what made this unforgivable. Like, if you manage to keep your clothes on, the rest doesn't count. I didn't mean, you meant every message. You meant every moment you made me invisible, every compliment you gave him that used to be mine. You meant it when you said I didn't excite you anymore, even if you only typed it. Her hands gripped the edge of the table. I was lonely. So was I. You were cold. I was numb. You never saw me. I watched you vanish. Her lips trembled. Please. I'm done fixing what you break to feel important. She stood slowly, as if the act of rising from that chair took every muscle in her body. I can change. No, you'll adapt, until the next secret fills the space where your honesty used to be. Tears started to gather. She didn't wipe them away, let them fall in silence, one after the other, down the sides of her face like rain on a window that no one inside cares to close. Tell me what you want me to do, she whispered. Nothing. You're really walking away. I already did. She sat back down, like her legs just gave out. Her fork remained untouched, the wine glass full. The candle flickered against the dim kitchen walls, casting long shadows across a meal that would go uneaten. She stared at her plate like it was a grave, and for the first time I saw it clearly. The collapse wasn't loud. It wasn't fireworks or screaming or shattered dishes. It was her sitting alone at a table she decorated in denial, dressed in the ruins of a reputation she thought she could salvage, and realizing, with sobs so quiet they barely shook her shoulders, that the person she betrayed the most wasn't me. It was the version of herself she pretended to be. 3 weeks passed like fog rolling over a dead orchard. Quiet, dull, gray, the kind of time where nothing outwardly breaks, but everything silently stops growing. We coexisted technically. She moved through the house like someone trying not to wake a sleeping child, polite, measured, hopeful, in a desperate sort of way. She'd set a plate for me at dinner, even when I didn't sit. Left folded laundry on my side of the bed I no longer slept in, smiled a little too much at nothing, a rehearsed optimism that felt like a bad stage play, half lit and empty. She started journaling, I think. I saw the leather-bound notebook on the counter every morning. I never opened it, didn't need to. She was documenting the collapse the way someone documents symptoms of an illness they don't plan to treat. And me? I was elsewhere. Not physically, just disengaged, detached. My mind had moved ahead to a future that no longer involved double-checking shared calendars or pretending her business trips were legitimate. I didn't need another confrontation. We'd already lived it, in public, in silence, in the slow dismantling of a life that had turned out to be more costume than content. So on a Monday morning, while she was out, yoga I think, I printed the papers. I left them on the kitchen counter with a pen. No note, no flourish, just petition for separation. It wasn't about revenge. It was about reality. She came home, saw them, stood motionless in the kitchen for a full 5 minutes before sitting down. When I came downstairs, she looked up with red-rimmed eyes and a voice that barely held together. This is what you want? I nodded. She swallowed hard. You don't want to try? I tried, I said softly. I just stopped pretending it worked. She stared at the paper, ran her fingers along the edge. You won't even go to counseling? This isn't a malfunction, I replied. It's a structural failure. Some things you don't rebuild, you replace. That line sat in the air like a held breath. She signed, I took the papers, folded them, and left without another word. Later that night, I sent one final message to Alicia. Thank you for walking in with me. The reply came minutes later. He's moving out too. No emoji, no bitterness. Just truth. Delivered cleanly. 2 marriages, both snapped at the seam, both dissolved not in violence but in precision. I didn't host a goodbye dinner. I didn't throw a single glass. I didn't even pack angrily. I just gathered the essentials, left her the house, and kept the part she never really wanted anyway, myself. People later asked mutual friends, acquaintances, a cousin of hers who called me bro at our wedding reception, why we separated. I told them the same thing every time. She told a lie with her whole heart. I just believed her with mine. Once is human, twice is a pattern, 3 times is a design flaw. And then I'd add quietly, some things you don't rebuild, you replace. They'd nod like they understood, but they didn't. Not really. Unless they've been the person left holding the blueprint of a marriage that someone else already rewrote in invisible ink. I never asked Alicia what she planned to do next. We weren't partners, just passengers on the same sinking ship who happened to notice the waterline at the same time. Still, we shared something very few people ever do. Clarity, a clean, unflinching truth that didn't need to be screamed to be heard. And when I walked away from that house for the last time, keys in the mailbox, no goodbye letter, no backward glance, I felt something I hadn't in months. Weightless, not happy, not free, just done. And in some lives, that's the closest thing to peace you get.